Hey, today we've got an interesting episode. We're going to talk about that journey that some of us have taken. I've taken. It's going from having a nice base salary to going out on your own or with a commission only. And it can be pretty scary. So it forces you. It really gets you, really tied down to what matters most. And all of a sudden, all the other BS seems to slip away. And I always thought a base salary was great. And I've had some great base salaries. One of my last jobs was an enormous base salary. And it made it really hard to leave and to look elsewhere. Because with basically just showing up, I had a lot of cushion. But it holds us back. It is a trap. And I encourage people to act like you're on commission only. Yes, they give you a base salary because they have to control you. They have to make sure you do what they need to show up, to enter crap in the CRM, to attend boring meetings and stuff. And part of that's being an employee, and I get that. But what they really want is revenue. That's why they hired you. They want the revenue. And if they don't get the revenue, then they blame one person, you and me. So today we're going to talk about that journey. We're also going to talk about skills and the journey that a rep goes through. And this is like going through like a whole career in a half hour. Now, if you pay attention and you listen to this, what you're going to find is there's going to be a lot of little things that you can pick up here, things that you can leverage. When you see somebody's career in, 30 minutes, you can say, wow, what were the mistakes that person made? What did they learn? How can I prevent myself from making that mistake? How can I go to that category I call genius, learning from other people's mistakes? That is the time saver. That is the major life hack. And most of us can't do that. We have to make it ourselves. We have to touch the stove to really understand that it's hot. That looking at the sign or watching someone else touch it really doesn't convince us that it's hot. We got to touch it. We all know that person. Maybe we know that person quite well. And then a lot of us not only have to make the mistake, we got to make it several times before we learn from it. How many times have you left your phone charger at home? How many times did you not charge your phone? How many times have you lost your keys, your glasses, your wallet, your credit card? I got to admit, I did that once this week, killing me. I love catching myself on this, and I kind of beat myself up, and I go, okay, now how do I put a system in place? These lessons, these tiny micro lessons, and now you look at the major lessons of selling, learning how to think like others, how to talk about what other people care about, how to understand what they're going through, how to listen. We all hear this. And we hear it for years before it hits us. Before we have an epiphany, a come to Jesus moment, a moment where we realize that, oh, this is a major skill. This is what Brian's been telling me about on that damn podcast. He wasn't making this crap up. Now, I think these type of podcasts, these type of interviews, you learn so much from, because if you just wrote down the 3 to 5 things and you look at yourself and you say, I can improve there. And we all can improve. And we all can get better. So let's get into it. Hey, and if you're in the courses, I want to make sure you're checking out. I put the office hours in the course. Office hours is the second to last chapter. The one-on-ones, which have been gold. One-on-ones are me talking with one of the students on Zoom, going through what they're doing. That's the very last chapter. I titled them very tightly about what they're about, so they have tons of examples, and where you see a rep breakthrough, where all of a sudden they now have something that works. And last week we got into a Fortune 10 CEO. I said too high. He says, I'm going. I'm doing it. Okay. Got a conversation starting in an hour. How's that? No cold call, no real cold email either. It was really engaging with what they wanted to talk about. Enough about the courses. I'll leave the rest of that to the end. Also, make sure you're checking out our buddies over at Co-Video. Video email, it's the way to make the boom happen this year. And so you don't get... That's right. Don't want that to happen. We need to get in and connect with people. And video email makes, I think, best as a second email, best as an explanation, best when you want to convey something that's much more directed towards them. And it is the way to do it. Also, check out Pipedrive. You get 60 days free trial with the Brutal Truth coupon code. Here we go. And I'll sum up everything at the end. Hey, Don, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
Oh, hey, thanks, Brian. Well, I've been in sales for a few decades, I think, if I want to count it. I don't really want to count it. And, now I sort of, my focus is on boosting the sales of people that are already experienced, they're trained, they're producers, they've been through all the training, they're doing everything right, and take them to that next level up so they can be a top 10%er.
And how'd you get into this?
How did I get into sales?
Sales in general, and now doing what you're doing.
Oh, okay. Well, let's take us back to the story. I do kind of have an overall idea of where I want to go here. It's all about strategy today, okay? Because my feeling is, and what I've learned, I've traveled about 2,500 salespeople. I've had 2,000 salespeople call upon me. I've been in sales for a long time. And what I've learned is when I look at that top 20%, those top producers, it's not about the skills. It's not about the methods. Even if you've got all of that, all that's going to get you is either middle of the pack or maybe above average. The only way you get in that top 20% is you have got to make better choices, strategy about what you're doing, why you're doing it. That's the only way to get there. It's all about the choices. Once you've got the skill set, you don't have the skill set, you're out of the game today. There is no place for the so-so salesperson in today's world. It's too tough. So anyway, that's kind of a background. Let's go back, because when I heard one of your podcasts, I was thought about this first experience I had in selling. I go way back, and so I was in inside sales on the inside sales desk, moved from inside order taker up to inside sales manager, pioneered actually building new accounts on the phone. I built house accounts and tripled the amount of house accounts. The house account territory became bigger than any of the outside salespeople's territories. So I knew how to sell, okay? Been doing it for a year and a half. Vice president calls me in and says, Don, now's the big day. We're going to give you the outside territory. Of course, this was the big thing. This was what everybody
It's your big
wanted.
day.
This is the big day. Now, and he says, I'm going to get the primo territory because this was the original territory of the company. Oh man, and this is, and I can stay where I'm now living. I know nothing about the sales results. I've never been shared anything about the numbers, who's producing, what they're producing, what the sales and commission. I don't know anything at this point, right? Sales said, I'm excited. And he says, now, Don, because you're going to be new as an outside sales rep, you got two choices on your compensation. To get used to it, we could keep you on your existing salary that you're making as inside sales manager for the next year while you get up to speed. Or you can go on 100% commission. Without blinking an eye, guess what I said? 100% commission. Man, I want to control my destiny, right? I was excited, It was about a week later when they gave me the computer runs on the territory. And the territory in the previous month generated commissions that were only 75% of my current salary.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'm saying, okay, I'm going to get up there. I'm going to work. I'm ready to go. So I get up. So and the other thing they did is they gave me a schedule of calling on existing customers. And the industry standard, which they used, was that you had a 2-week rotation calling on all the existing customers because it was organized by the efficiency of driving. Drive to an area, use it so you don't use as much mileage or gas mileage. We had to pay, we got a per diem. So it was we got a fixed amount of money regardless of how much we drove. So it was all designed, go to this area, work it, go to that area, work it, go to that area. You know how that is, right?
Yep.
And it was about a 2-week cycle to call on everybody. So I says, fine, okay, I'll go out there. I go out there for 2 weeks. At the end of 2 weeks, there is no change in the level of sales in this territory. And there's only 2.5 weeks left in the month, and I'm beginning to worry about how am I going to pay my bills?
Yeah.
Oh, and I want to tell you that weekend was a weekend in which I asked questions of myself and really thought about what I was doing. And I had no guidance. All they did was send me out there. I already knew how to sell. That was enough. There's nothing else to learn, right? You know how to sell. Just get up there and talk to the customers. Bam. But I knew there was something going on, but I didn't know what it was. Okay. And so I started thinking about, what have I learned in this 2 weeks? Well, the first thing I learned is that I was hearing a lot of customers tell me, oh, I just bought from one of your competitors. They were in a couple of days ago, 3 days ago. And I'm not hearing that just from small customers. I'm hearing that from some of the big whales, some of the largest accounts. And I'm saying, oh. The second thing that I picked up was that about 80% of the sales of this territory was coming from like 10% of the customers. About 9 customers, 8 customers, something like that. They were 80%. And I said, so wait a minute here. So these 80%, I could get a lot more sales out of them. They shouldn't be buying anything from anybody else. Why are they buying from anyone else? And I realized something, and this is important for everyone to learn. The question is, what drives you? So we think, well, it's the money. Well, it's not really the money. If it's only the money, then you should go to Wall Street, okay? I mean, that's because but that can't drive you, and sometimes that drives us in the wrong way. Yes, you want to make more money. We want to make good money. I mean, why are we in sales, right? We want to control our money, our destiny. But I really got angry. I got angry that these customers, all of them, were actually buying from somebody else. How dare they buy from anybody else? Oh, I wanted to own it. I felt this sense, I've got to control this thing. I've got to take charge of this thing. These people shouldn't be buying from anyone else. It's my job to take control. So that's what I did. So I said, okay, first of all, if I got a big well customer, calling on them every other week doesn't work. I've got to call on them every week. Now that's going to double my gas mileage because I don't have to backtrack in the middle of the week. Who cares? Even if I go over my per diem, I have to spin it in my own pocket. It's chump change.
Yeah.
I got to work these people and build these people. I got to be in there. They're not going to buy anything from anybody else. Guaranteed, I am locking the competition out of those ones. Then the other 20%, well, I couldn't obviously drive to all of those I'd stay every other week. But of course, I had experience in phone selling. So the alternative week when I wasn't calling on them, I would go and I would call them, and I would schedule it obviously a day or two before I knew other competitors were coming in.
Yeah.
Now let's go back in time. Do you remember the time before cell phones, Brian?
Let's see. Yes.
So imagine this is before.
I remember the time before phones.
Oh God, no. Well, there was dinosaurs and there was all kinds of things out there.
It was smoke signal.
On the smoke signals, right. So imagine that I am taking time out of my territory to call these accounts that I can't physically call every other week to beat the competition out and make sure I get everything.
Yeah.
So I go to a gas station and a payphone that's in a glass enclosed payphone. I've got my computer printout open. I've got my order book. I've got the phone cradled, and I'm dialing these people and I'm writing orders like crazy. Then I'm getting back in the car and I'm calling on the customers that I'm calling in that area. And this is what I was doing. End of the month, my commission was 10% higher than my salary the previous month. The total sales were up 35% from the previous month. Every single month following that, my sales increased over the previous month. Within 12 months, the sales were triple that of when I started. The commissions were 4 times greater. Yeah. Why were my commissions 4 times greater? Because I put more emphasis into the higher commission items, which were the higher margin items. And so I actually increased the higher margin items more than all the other items. So that's my early story. So what's the lesson is that the choices about how I manage the territory, how I manage my time, no one was telling me anything. No one was giving me this. It wasn't about sales skills. It was about where was I, what I was doing, and what was driving me was I was going to starve the competitors out. And I believe I literally did.
Yeah.
I had one call I was on, and I'm in there and I'm talking with the business owner, right? And a competing salesperson from the major competitor walks in the door. Now, if you see that a salesperson is there and you walk in the door, what would you normally do?
I'd beat him up. Is
well,
that wrong?
Yeah, that's wrong. But this idiot, this absolute idiot, walked up to within 6 feet of me and stood there while I was talking with this customer. I mean, absolutely trying to intimidate me, and I just continued on as if he didn't exist and did my thing, and then I didn't say anything to him, but I knew he really had it in for me because I had cut into his commission.
Yeah. No, I love that focus thing because I think it's overlooked, and today I think managers and even reps are falling into the activity versus the accomplishment.
Yeah, it's what are we driven by? And for me, it's like, oh,
competition.
It's like competition, but it's like, oh, look what I'm doing for this customer. I'm servicing them. I'm taking care of them. They're buying from me. I'm making sure that they are completely taken care of. Yeah. I've got them, and that's that inner sense. Now, of course, I get the nice paycheck, and that's kind of like, it's the icing on the cake. It's the nice reward, but the real key is that inner. Right,
and finding out what motivates you as an individual. And
an individual, yeah. And I find that even today with my clients, I'm both a consultant and a trainer. And with my clients, I really get into their mindset. I start thinking, how do we take this market? How do we control this market? How do we get rid of these competitors? I mean, I'm still the same guy, okay? And it's like, what are we going to do here? And I just get so into it. And what it does is it causes me to come up with ideas.
Yeah.
Because I'm driven by getting their sales up. It's like, what can we do? What can we do here?
And then when that cushy base salary goes away, it forces you.
Oh, I tell you, I was nervous, and the wife was kind of, and did I make the right decision? What can happen at home. And I knew I had the sales ability.
Right.
But I had to jump completely outside of everything I'd been taught and question everything and reconstruct everything in an entirely new way that worked.
And you didn't panic.
And I didn't panic, although there was
there was a panicky feeling.
Well, and the panicky feeling wasn't when I was out in the field. The panicky feeling was on the weekend or the evening, right?
Yeah.
But when you're in the middle of it, you're just driving. You're just next call, make it happen. It's only when you're sitting at home relaxed and then you're thinking about it and you're thinking about that paycheck. But in the moment, you can't be. You just got to put that aside and you've got to focus. And I think that's the big issue with salespeople.
I think you're right.
I think we focus on all these details, on all the skills and all the methods and all the processes, and we forget this is a customer. And where does the sale occur? It occurs inside the mind of the customer, nowhere else on the planet Earth. That's where it is. That's where you got to spend your time.
Right.
I got an interesting story if you'd like to hear it. Job interviews are like sales, right? Isn't a job interview a sale?
It's a sales call.
It's a sales call. Now, remember I said that I had like 2,000 salespeople calling me because I was a C-suite executive for a national restaurant chain. And how did I get that job? Well, I cold call CEOs. I just cold call him, and I cold call this one guy. He was the president founder of a national chain, and he said, "Come on down this afternoon." So I got in my car. I came on down this afternoon. Let's talk. This guy. It was the funniest thing because we were there. I was there for about 3 hours, and in that 3 hours, he talked 2 hours and 45 minutes.
As it should be.
And I got about 15 minutes in, but haven't you? We have a lot of customers that have been like that. Of course, I think that's a great thing as a salesperson.
It is a great thing, yeah.
Because look at all that I'm getting all this information, okay? And he was a talker, so I talk a little bit about this or that. He asked me a question, then all of a sudden it was like pushing a button. The wind-up dog goes on, and he's flapping his arms and moving his chair and moving around, and he's talking, and then he winds down, and then, of course, then I say something else, right? So imagine this guy, and he's sitting in this chair that he sat in for 25 years, a high back, leather executive chair, blue in color, no less, worn out. And he's got a 15-foot bookshelf behind him, very tall, 18-foot ceiling, right? And you're looking up the bookshelf because, of course, you're paying attention and observing these things, right? You're seeing World War II memorabilia. You're seeing aircraft, military aircraft planes. He was a World War II bomber pilot. You're seeing a lot of that, so you know that's in him. And then you look up to the very top shelf, between the top shelf and the ceiling, right? And there is a stuffed vulture. A stuffed vulture. And that vulture has been positioned perfectly. So it's looking
at you.
Right at you. So are you getting a picture of this thing?
I know where it's going, yeah.
And this old-timer, Texas type guy, right? I don't know what I said. This is in the last 30 minutes of the conversation. I don't know what I said that triggered him. but he goes into this like preacher mode. And I mean, you never see anybody flapping there. I thought the chair and him were going to take off.
Yeah.
And he starts going on this thing how people are out to get you, and they're going to steal from you, and they're going to take from you, and you got to watch out for everybody. And he's going on and on and on and on. And then finally, as he gets toward the wind down, he looks at me, and let's see if I can recreate it. And he says, "Don, you can't trust anyone."
Jack Nicholson.
That's exactly. And then he stops. And out of nothing, just out of the inside of me, this is one of those strategic choices, just like we have to make, that you can't plan in advance, right? Out of nowhere, I say, "Well, David, I guess that means I can't trust you." He stops. He stares at me for the longest time. And then this wry smile comes over his face. He says, "Don, you're right. You cannot trust me." And he says, "You're hired." So what I had done in that point is simply, with all of this information over 2 3/4 hours, I had read him very clearly that he was somebody that wanted somebody, but not just my experience and background, that knew who he really was and understood him, because then he felt I would have his back.
Yeah. Instead of the rookie would have said, "Oh, but you can trust me."
Right.
And he would have been like the vulture eating you.
And let me tell you what I learned after I started working for it. The office staff had a pool. You know how we have betting pools like in football? Well, they had a betting pool on how many weeks an executive would last in the office.
Like the death pool.
If you came in as an executive reporting directly to David, oh my goodness, they had, was it 1 week, 2? They actually had a betting pool. I mean, and because they made money off of it. Well, I was there 3.5 years, so no one made money on me. Okay, but here's what I saw. People would come in and they would show some weakness, something, or, appeasement or something, or try to play with him, and he would eat them alive. Yeah. Absolutely. He would just go for the jugular. He was that kind of person. He just, and I think we've seen in sales, we've seen customers like that. We dealt with them, and bosses. So you had to be strong with him, and you can't show any weakness with him at all. And you had to be able to look him in the eye. And he, even though you might batter back and forth with him, ultimately he would respect you.
And that's the key word, is respect. And that's what we get with our clients. We want to be at peer level. We don't want to be subordinate.
No. But, out of all of this, so if we kind of move forward just a little bit. So if I look at all this and all this experience, right? And we come back to that 20%er, right? Because I keep thinking about the top 20%. It's already got all the training. They got everything else right. So too many sales executives assume, oh, there's nothing else. But the reality is, for their salespeople, is that they're not going far enough into the customer. They're not really going deep enough in the customer. And you had a podcast, I think it was just the other day, in which you were saying, it's not about answering objections. It's about avoiding and preventing objections, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's easy to say that, but how do you do it, right?
Well, yeah. And I think all objections, true objections, not questions, not concerns.
Right.
But I'm too busy. I'm not the right person. We got something. That's
your
because
price is too high.
Right. What you're doing is it is the signal that you're moving too fast.
Exactly.
That you don't have rapport with them. You don't have any value. You haven't built any curiosity or interest. And you're pushing.
It goes deeper than that, Brian, because yes, all of that's true. But underlying it is that you have not collected all of the information from the customer. And the customer doesn't mean one person. It could be all the influencers, especially the complex business-to-business sale. You haven't collected all the information to really understand what's going on and how that customer is seeing things.
Right.
More importantly, and this is what separates what I've learned from all of my experience and all these people I've traveled with, what I've learned separates the top 20% from the rest. Even if you learn the discovery and you've got it all down, you've taken the top programs. I mean, maybe it's Rain Insight, it's Challenger, it's Customer Centric, it's Miller Hyman, it's Sandler, it's Richards, whomever you're taking, right? Great programs, and you've learned all the discovery, you're doing all the discovery, you're actually collecting a lot of this information, right? but the top 20% do a better job of accurately interpreting what they're hearing.
Right.
And what happens to the rest is they're getting all the information in, but a part of their mind is thinking about making the sale, moving the sale forward, and they're not stopping and saying, what is this customer really saying? What does this really mean?
Yeah.
Isn't that right?
It's what psychiatrists or psychologists call it is the outward mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a characteristic that people are supposed to learn when they're children, meaning other minds is what they call it, meaning that you can understand how someone else is interpreting the world. And what blocks that is our view of the world.
Right. And you've got to pay your bills. You got to make your commission. The sales executive is all over you. You've got all of this hugely ridiculous, complex compensation thing.
Right. And it's our job to sell, and we assume it's their job to buy. It's not their job to buy.
It is not their job to buy. It's not job to buy. Absolutely. I'll tell you, I'll share with you, you mentioned the word value. And I have spent the last 30 years studying and working on this idea of the perception of value, the customer perception of value. And we've really, I tried to take it further than we were. And I think we have some misunderstandings, some myths about it. And it really speaks to the heart of this problem, because we have sales, we have companies telling their salespeople, go out and sell the value, sell the added value, present the value to the customer. You can't do that. And the reason is you can't sell value to a customer. The value is a valuation. It is a calculation the customer goes through with all these, remember the algebra equations, A plus B plus C plus D divided by X equals Y. Well, we hope we never have to see that again in our life, of course. Yeah. But that's what's going on inside the customer. And so they're coming to a calculation. You can't tell them their calculation is wrong.
Well, you can't, because it's like beauty. They interpret what value is.
That's
don't.
Right. That's right. They interpret it. What we have to do is we have to understand how they're valuing and how they're looking at things. And then we have to provide them with insights and information that they throw into their equation. Yeah. If we have not thrown in enough insights and information, then all of a sudden they're coming back, I'm not interested. Your price is too high. Or,
right. It's not even an objection. It's an excuse. It's an excuse. I got to wash my hair on Saturday night. That's why I can't go out with you.
or what happens even with well-trained salespeople, maybe it's not so much an excuse, but the other thing that happens is they let themselves, along with their competitors, all be perceived as commodities.
Yes.
And then the customer throws them all into the shootout at the price corral. And
of course, because that's where they're powerful.
That's where they're powerful. And then I know behind the scenes, because I remember I being one of those decision makers with my other key people, and we're laughing. Oh, those sales wonks. So we did this to them. Oh, those sales wonks. We did that, and let have another chug of beer. Oh man, we're just having a great time just laughing at what we're doing to the sales wonks. It's like, and I'm talking about the people at Oracle or somebody at Sun Systems, and we're just having a blast with them, and we're getting their price down. Oh man, we're having so much fun. They don't understand that. They can't. Most salespeople can't take you beyond that.
Yeah, and that's it, because they view the world as they show up. They tell you what it is, what it does, how it's different, and what it costs. Not solving the client's problem.
Not solving the client's problem. And how do you solve the client's problem? You've got to get deeper and deeper.
Into their head.
Right. The way that I say it is, the question I ask is, how can I read my customer's mind? Well, you can't be like a psychic, right? But boy, you can actually pull out a ton of information, make sense of it, connect the dots, interpret it right, and you've got the whole roadmap right in front of you where to go. And now it's a strategy, it's a choice. What do I do next to move the sale forward? It's not about the technique. It's about, what do I do now? Where do I have to go? What the missing piece is, and making sure that all of the pieces are there so that customer assigns a high value to you.
Right.
Then you don't get the objections. It's not just price objection, but any objection, because they see all the value.
Right. You got to be curious. You got to be empathetic. You got to put yourself in their place. You got to be patient. Mm-hmm. And you got to ask lots of great questions and show that you care.
Yeah. And avoid assumptions.
Assumptions are the opposite of curiosity, right?
Exactly. I tell you, let me tell you a couple of situations I've seen with salespeople. they go in, they do a good job of discovery, they uncover some needs, the customer admits these are compelling, they actually quantify it, some good stuff worthy of some kind of presentation, right? They give a presentation, the customer acknowledges that, yeah, these are benefits, these could be beneficial to us, right? But then they don't buy.
Right.
Why? Why don't they buy? Because even though all of that was done and they acknowledged all of that, it wasn't all that important to them compared to everything else on their that they have to do that has nothing to do with what you're selling. They got a job to do.
Yeah.
Salespeople do not go beyond the offer and the issue to see the total job that these people are doing. And you might be priority 9 on all of the things that they're doing and what the CEO is pressuring them to do, right?
The list of good ideas. Yeah.
Right. But they're hearing that the customer liked my benefits. Oh, then I've got the sale. No, you don't.
No, you get interest.
Because you don't know the priorities.
Yeah.
And if I was to make one quick suggestion to salespeople, it's really understand the total priorities and importance that the customer has. If you know their priorities, you're going to avoid a lot of objections. You're going to make a lot more sales.
Cool. Hey, Don, it's been a great conversation. Where can people go to follow you and learn more about your work?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, of course. That's my primary place. Don Shapiro, DonShapiro on LinkedIn. I'm not hard to find. My company is First Concepts, firstconcepts.com, FIRSTCONCEPTS. And basically, I like to get, what I do as a consultant.
Are you passionate about this?
No, I'm not. You can tell I have a problem with enthusiasm.
You're too laid back.
I'm too laid back. I got a problem with these. I get excited.
You need to express your feelings more.
For me, the whole world is about results.
Yeah.
That's what I live for. It's not the money. The money. Yeah, I got to have the money to pay the bills and all that. That's nice. But it's about the results. It's just that feeling that bam, bam, bam. So I basically live for my client results and just try to get salespeople deeper into that customer mindset. And that's what I do.
Think about it. What would your day look like if you were on commission only, that you had little or no base? Would it help you? I bet it would. I bet it'd be scary, and it is. But what it does is it clarifies and prioritizes what you should be working on. We're in sales because we get paid for our skill, our ability, our talent in producing revenue. And a lot of those things that come with our base salary distract us from that, deprioritize that, keep us busy on things that matter to other people and not to us. So I like that point. And I think this is one you might want to listen to over and over again, because I'm having the best salespeople that I can route up over LinkedIn onto the podcast to share the journey so that you can learn from their mistakes, so that you can find the distinctions, understand what makes them better. And I think the themes are pretty consistent. And it's not what you've been told your whole life, that it's just hard work, determination. That's part of it, but that's just showing up. That's not enough to get all the things that we want. You know what we want, and the things that we don't want. That's right. We don't want that. Speaking of that, let's talk about the courses. We're coming up near the end of the year. I'm holding the prices till the end of the year, but sign up now and really let's start the year off right with the skill set, the mindset, the abilities, the processes, the systems in place to understand how to spend your time and on what and what to do. The great salespeople have that system. It's not just this innate skill that we think people have, the charm and personality. Some people have that. Some people don't. Not so much. That's right. Not so much. So what we have to do is understand how companies buy. And I was thinking of this analogy, and I'm still working on it. It's like we're selling, imagine a mechanic. When they fix a car, they typically don't sit in the driver's seat. What they do is they open the hood. They diagnose it. They understand how a car works. We have to understand how people work and how companies work. No one teaches that. You get psychology, but not about persuasion and change. about taking action, about staying in touch, about communicating, about building a bond, a level of trust. Because people say, oh, I don't want to be anyone's friend. It's not about being their friend. It's being trusted. That's the difference, because trust is the bandwidth of communication. It is the speed of communication. Because if you don't trust somebody, do you believe them? That's essentially distrust, isn't it? And if you believe people you don't trust, are you gullible? Anyways, the courses, there's 2 of them. I'll describe. There's Start the Conversation, Get the Meeting. Now, this will help you get into any account. How to start a conversation with a stranger, and then how to scale it, how to prioritize your time, how to put together a system, and then how do you outsource it and automate it so that you can scale it. I mean, we have people getting conversations started with CEOs and VPs in less than an hour. And people, the first thing people say, oh, this is slower than just pitching. Well, maybe. You're assuming that they're going to pick up the phone if you pitch them, or that they're going to open your email if you pitch them. But how about if you approach them the way they want to be, the way that they like to be? And this is all based off of science and data. And I show you exactly how to do it. And there's just tons of examples. Both courses include office hours, which is a hour-long Zoom meetup that we do every other Friday. You can submit questions if you can't make it there. If you're there, you can ask questions. We go through a case study. I save them and put them into the course. So you don't miss anything. Everything is put into the course, and you get unlimited one-on-ones, which is a 30-minute Zoom call with me where we talk about applying the course to a problem or situation that you're facing. And you get to talk it through, get feedback, get clarification, get some more eyes on the problem, and somebody to talk over your deals with. That's pretty valuable. I like that. I have somebody I talk my deals over with and my business strategy, and it makes it a lot easier. And I've been, eating my own dog food this week, where I looked over my business strategy over the last several years, and I mapped it out, and I then analyzed it, and all of a sudden you get clarity once you get the process out of your head. Then you can look at it, you can analyze it, you can ask yourself questions about it, and it's all there. You don't have to restore it into your brain's cache. Enough of this. Go to b2brevenue.com, check the training tab, schedule a time to talk it through, check the courses out, but please be serious, please show up and think through, like, what would you like to accomplish? What problem are you trying to solve? You want to get into more accounts, or you want to close bigger deals faster? That's what I'm all about here. We'll see you next time. Tell somebody about the podcast.